Chapter 16, Nude streaking is the trend in the Imperial City this year. Joe Rouge was actually a low-key person. He never showed off the fact that he was the son of the Minister of the Left because he did not want to grow up under his father's shadow. Strictly speaking, Joe Rouge was not a playboy like Sun Kixian because he was an idealist. He hoped that one day when people mentioned Joe Rouge, they would first think of him instead of his identity as the son of the Minister of the Left. That was why Joe Rouge learned martial arts when he was 5 years old, studied poetry and literature when he was 9 and was familiar with the 100 schools of thought by the time he was 15. He wanted to become a master of stratagems, so he needed the necessary knowledge and experience. Even though he did not achieve any stunning achievements in recent years, his efforts were not in vain. At the very least, his name was feared by many people within the Imperial City. Fatty Jin was one of them. As the affluent owner of a crystal mine, he had no choice but to deal with court officials. That was why he knew much more than others, like the fact that Joe Rouge devised a strategy to kill a 5th-grade battle king from a sect. He knew that Joe Rouge was a ruthless, meticulous, tenacious and ambitious person. Since young Master Joe wishes to order first, then let him go first, Fatty Jin said while lifting up his head and continuing to eat his food. He did not wish to see his buddies clash with that insidious Joe Rouge, otherwise they might die one day without even knowing why. The other obese men could only bitterly step back. Joe Rouge was very pleased with their reactions. He disdainfully glanced at them and arrogantly sneered. Bu Feng had been indifferently looking on since the beginning. He did not say anything and could not be bothered to do so. At last, Joe Rouge looked at Bu Feng once more and demandingly said, "Why haven't you gone in to cook my food? What are you waiting for?" Bu Feng was expressionless as he indifferently replied, "Our store's rules are, takeout is forbidden, each customer can order each dish only once per day, creating a disturbance is forbidden, queue jumping is forbidden, and the opening hours lasts 3 hours. Are you emphasizing that queue jumping is forbidden?" Joe Rouge chuckled. He did not think much of it. It was only the rules of a little store in a remote alleyway. Rules were made by men and were meant to be broken. Bu Feng knitted his eyebrows and solemnly said, "No, I am emphasizing that creating a disturbance and queue jumping is forbidden. Also, the opening hours lasts 3 hours and there is only half an hour left. If I am telling you to cook my food, then you should go and cook them. You're just a mere cook, what's with all this nonsense? The fact that I am eating here is a great honor for you. Don't push your luck." Joe Rouge was getting tired of speaking with Bu Feng and his expression turned cold as he angrily shouted. Then he kicked an obese man sitting nearby to make him give up his seat. Here was another idiot who offended the future god of cooking. Bu Feng was still expressionless. Rule breakers will be blacklisted and the store will no longer provide any services to them, so please queue up accordingly. After Bu Feng finished what he wanted to say, he entered the kitchen and completely ignored the enraged Joe Rouge who was banging the table. After a while, a bowl of egg fried rice was ready. Bu Feng carried it out and placed it in front of one of the obese men, ignoring the outraged Joe Rouge. Another egg fried rice was completed, but Joe Rouge was still not being served. After Bu Feng continuously cooked 7 servings of egg fried rice, a rich fragrance had completely enveloped the store. It was as if the store had transformed into a sea of fragrance. Joe Rouge, who was immersed within it, felt as if time seemed to stretch on forever. His stomach was continuously rumbling. "What are you doing? Why is my egg fried rice still not done yet?" Joe Rouge, who had been waiting for quite some time, could not endure it anymore. Bu Feng simply glanced at him and said, "There are still 3 servings of dry mixed noodles and 3 servings of stir-fried vegetables before your egg-fried rice." Joe Rouge took in a deep breath. As the raging anger within his chest started to sprout, his hair fluttered around in the air and bright light circulated on his skin. "I really don't understand, what exactly gave a cook like you the courage to challenge me?" Joe Rouge's pupils seemed to be twinkling as a terrifying aura emanated from his body. Joe Rouge's cultivation level was at third-grade battle maniac and was in the upper tier even within the younger generation in the Imperial City. Although he was nothing compared to masters like Zhou Yanyu from Zhou Manor and the son of the Marquis that protects the country Yang Chen, he was far superior to playboys like Sun Kixing. "Are you trying to start a fight in the store?" Bu Feng was not frightened at all. Even though the aura coming from Joe Rouge was very powerful, he was not affected at all. "So what if I am?" Joe Rouge sneered as he held out his palm and a stream of true energy gathered in his palm. "Before you came, over 100 men came to smash the store and ended up running home naked. Do you want to nude streak as well?" Bu Feng expressionlessly asked. Joe Rouge slightly hesitated, then disdainfully smiled and said, "Don't compare me with those trash. If you beg for mercy right now and immediately cook my egg fried rice, I will forgive you. Otherwise, you can forget about continuing this business. There are still 3 servings of dry mixed noodles and 3 servings of stir-fried vegetables. You're asking for it." Joe Rouge was truly angry. He took a step forward and true energy gushed out from his hand as he reached toward Bu Feng. He was confident that an ordinary person would not be able to dodge his attack. Bu Feng calmly stood still as he watched the approaching Joe Rouge. Before Joe Rouge even reached him, a whistling wind coming from his palm made Bu Feng's long hair flap in the wind. Fatty Jin narrowed his eyes and his aura suddenly changed. The tip of his toes pushed against the ground and his body actually floated into the air. He wanted to stop Joe Rouge. "Whitey," Bu Feng softly called. Fatty Jin's eyes suddenly widened as a white and metallic puppet appeared in front of Bu Feng. Joe Rouge's palm mercilessly slapped onto the metallic puppet's body but nothing happened. Joe Rouge was stunned and Fatty Jin was bewildered as well. "Troublemakers, you will be stripped as an example to others." Whitey's metallic pupils blinked for a while, then the visions of both Joe Rouge and Fatty Jin blurred and they felt as if they were flying in the air. Bang! Joe Rouge was the first one to be thrown out of the store and fell face first into the mud. He felt a chilly feeling all over his body and discovered all of his clothes were missing, leaving only a loincloth to cover his crotch. He angrily lifted up his head and looked toward the store. However, the expression on his face quickly turned into horror, because he saw a pile of white flesh flying out from the store and was wriggling in the air as it headed toward him. Boom! The entire ground slightly shook. Fatty Jin felt wronged. He was not trying to cause trouble and only wanted to help. After heavily landing on the ground, Fatty Jin nudged his body as he felt as if there was something underneath him. Immediately, a burst of deranged voice came from below, causing him to quickly get up. Joe Rouge was having a nosebleed and his delicate and handsome face had become somewhat distorted. Bu Feng walked toward the entrance of the store with his arms folded across his chest as Whitey stood behind him with a metallic sheen. "Today's opening hours has ended, please come back tomorrow. Please pay your bill, the total amount is 34 crystals and 800 gold coins." Bu Feng indifferently said as he glanced at one of the obese men. That man shuddered and quickly paid the bill, then the entire group got out of the store. Joe Rouge quickly left after making a threat with a furious look on his face. However, after looking at his white and naked behind, the believability of his threat was basically zero. "Ha ha! Your store is interesting, we'll come back tomorrow." As Fatty Jin recalled that savory taste of the egg fried rice, he laughed out loud. Then he swaggered away with his group of buddies as the fat on their bodies jiggled with every step. The big black dog lying at the entrance snorted, rolled its eyes and went back to sleep. Bu Feng glanced at the back of the group of obese men, then expressionlessly closed up the restaurant for the day. When Bu Feng got back to his room, he estimated his progression on the mission. Within 7 days, he had to make a profit of 100 crystals and 1,000 gold coins. The gold currency part of the mission was fulfilled, so he only needed to get around 50 crystals, which represented 5 servings of improved egg fried rice. There shouldn't be any problems, if that group of obese men comes tomorrow, Bu Feng muttered. "Eh? Isn't that the sons of the minister of the left, young Master Joe Rouge? Is he taking up nude streaking as well? His buttocks sure is white. The vegetable seller muttered. He's truly the son of the minister of the left. That white butt of his is even prettier than a woman's butt. The shelving seller muttered. Is nude streaking the latest trend in the Imperial City? Why don't we do it some other day as well? The blacksmith said in a loud voice. Bufang. If I don't destroy you and your little store, my name isn't Joe Rouge. Joe Rouge, who was covering his body with a basket, angrily roared with tears in his eyes. Chapter 17, I heard that dry mixed noodles is more compatible with a sissy. The incident with Joe Rouge did not negatively influence Bufang's life and did not give him any uneasiness either. The restaurant was open for business the next day as usual. After feeding egg fried rice to the big black dog that was living a pig's life, Bufang was curled up on a chair as usual and his life carried on as always. Fatty Jin and his buddies were completely taken captive after eating Bufang's egg fried rice the previous day, and their minds were completely filled with the delicious food in Fang Fang's little store. For someone like Fatty Jin, the amount of a bowl of egg fried rice was far too little and was completely unable to satisfy his appetite. After he arrived home, he ordered his chef to cook a basin's worth of egg fried rice. However, compared to Bufang's egg fried rice, the taste of the egg fried rice cooked by his chef, that he especially hired from Jiangnan, was simply too terrible. After taking a bite, he found it difficult to continue eating. The color, smell, and taste were on a completely different level than the egg fried rice of Fang Fang's little store. After enduring an entire night of hunger, Fatty Jin and his buddies ferociously headed toward Fang Fang's little store the next day. People not in the know might even think that they were going there to look for a fight. Owner Boo, good morning. When Fatty Jin arrived at the alleyway, he was delighted to find that Fang Fang's little store had already opened for business. Bufang recognized the obese man. There was no one else with that body size and belly in the entire Imperial City. Bufang expressionlessly nodded at them and said, "Are you here to eat? What are you ordering?" "Owner Boo, you have very little dishes here, but the taste of your food is wonderful. I was so hungry last night that I couldn't sleep at all. I simply could not wait to eat your egg fried rice. That's why I brought my buddies here to eat this early." Fatty Jin was grinning as he naturally walked into the store. The corner of Bufang's mouth widened to reveal an awkward smile. He was obviously happy when someone praised his food. "However, Owner Boo, I have an advice for you. You could try making a breakfast menu. See, you're open so early and yet, you're only selling oily food. It's a waste of the morning period. Of course, your egg fried rice is not oily at all." Bufang thought for a while, then nodded his head and simply said, "There will be in the future, wait for it." Fatty Jin smiled as he sat down on a chair and said, "Owner, I want a serving of every dish. I am so hungry that I can't stand it." Bufang gently answered with a then turned to the rest of the obese men. They naturally ordered all of the dishes like Fatty Jin. When it came to these obese men, Bufang was not worried at all that they would waste any food. The only possible worry would be there was not enough for them to eat. "All right, please wait." After noting their orders, Bufang entered the kitchen. Be it starting the fire or turning on the stove, everything was done quickly and proficiently. With a burst of fire and a tilt of the frying pan, a spatula was used to scoop out the egg fried rice. The egg fluid, which was 80% cooked, enveloped every single plump rice grain. As it was carried out of the kitchen, the rich fragrance triggered a barrage of rumbling within the stomachs of the obese men. When Bufang brought out the second serving of egg fried rice, Fatty Jin was already licking the bowl. When he saw Bufang, he quickly put down the bowl, gave a thumbs up and said, "Owner Boo, this taste is the best. It is the most delicious egg fried rice that I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I can't believe that this egg fried rice actually stimulates the true energy within my body. No wonder it costs 10 crystals. I'll have another serving." "I am sorry, every customer can only order each dish once per day," Bu Feng expressionlessly replied. Owner Bu, money isn't an issue, I don't mind paying more. Give me another serving, this little amount is completely unable to fill my stomach, Fatty Ginchley said. He really did not care about money at all. Compared to delicious food, money did not matter. No, these are the rules, Bu Feng coldly said. Then he turned around and entered the kitchen, ignoring the depressed Fatty Jin. When all the orders were completed, Bu Feng was massaging his slightly aching shoulders as he walked out of the kitchen. Fatty Jin and his buddies had already contentedly finished their food. They greeted Bu Feng one after another and he expressionlessly nodded back at them. The total is 55 crystals and 1,000 gold coins. SSSS. Even though these obese men did not lack money, they still sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard the price. Only this group of nouveau riche could spend so much money in a single meal. I will treat you guys today. Let's patronize Owner Bu's business more often in the future. We can't let this delicious dishes be neglected. Fatty Jin was extremely generous as he waved his arm and footed the bill. Please come again next time. Bu Feng watched as the group of satiated obese men left with an awkward smile appeared on his face. My host, congratulations for completing the mission, a profit of 100 crystals and 1,000 gold coins within a week. The system's solemn voice sounded out in Bu Feng's mind, causing his calm heart to become slightly happy. He thought, I finally completed the mission. However, there was very little change in his expression. Even though the system had already distributed the reward, he did not check them as it was still within opening hours. Outside the store, a tall and slim figure slowly approached. Owner Bu, good afternoon. Give me a serving of improved egg fried rice. The third prince, Ji Changsu, said with a smile, then found a seat and sat down. Bu Feng nodded and said, please wait a moment. The group of obese men had eaten all the way from morning until the afternoon. Just when Bu Feng was cooking the egg fried rice in the kitchen, another two figures appeared outside the entrance. Your Highness is here as well? Zhou Zialong was pleasantly surprised by Ji Changsu, who is already inside Fang Feng's little store. Beside Zhou Zialong was the slim Zhou Yanyu, who was wearing a veil. The energy that Zhou Yanyu emitted was even more powerful than before and bright lights were periodically flashing on her jade-like skin. Yanyu's cultivation level has once again improved, as expected of the monstrous genius that could compete with the son of the Marquis that protects the country. Ji Changsu gently smiled. Zhou Yanyu faced Ji Changsu and slightly curtsied. The young Marquis that protects the country is amazingly talented and had reached the peak of 4th grade battle spirit at the age of 15. How could I compete with him? Your Highness is far too kind. Haha, are you here to eat? Owner Bu's culinary skills is truly unparalleled. I feel that he's far better than the imperial chef, Ji Changsu said with a laugh. Bu Feng walked out of the kitchen. In his hands was a blue and white porcelain bowl with the glowing egg fried rice. The rich aroma spread across the room, causing Ji Changsu and the rest to be intoxicated. Here's your improved version of egg fried rice, please enjoy your meal, Bu Feng expressionlessly said. Owner Bu, do you have alcohol here? If this delicious egg fried rice is matched with good wine, then it would be perfect. Ji Changsu earnestly looked at Bu Feng and suggested. Wine? Bu Feng paused for a moment, then he nodded. There will be in the future, wait for it. Owner Bu, give me 2 servings of improved egg fried rice and 2 servings of stir-fried vegetables, Zhou Zialong excitedly said. Please wait a moment, Bu Feng turned around to return to the kitchen. When he reached the entrance, he suddenly turned around and said, Sissy, don't you want dry mixed noodles as well? I heard that dry mixed noodles is more compatible with a sissy. Zhou Zialong expressionlessly looked at Bu Feng. If he had a knife on him, he would have unhesitatingly slashed at Bu Feng. Zhou Yanyu and Ji Changsu immediately laughed and was grinning from ear to ear. They did not realize that the cold and strict owner Bu is so humorous. Bu Feng was slightly confused. He was just talking about a fact. Josie along came a few times and only ordered a bowl of dry mixed noodles, but every time he would cheerfully finish it. The two were definitely compatible. Ignoring them, Bufang entered the kitchen. After the three of them finished their meals, they paid their bills and parted ways with Bufang. They left Fang Fang's little store with satisfied smiles on their faces. It was the favorite scene of every chef to see their customers leave with a satisfied smile on their faces. Even someone as cold as Bufang was not an exception. After cleaning up the tableware, there was only half an hour left before Fang Fang Little Store's opening hours was over. Bufang stretched his body and yawned, then curled up on the chair and leaned against the doorway. He planned to spend the last half an hour in relaxation. The scorching sun was gradually moving and its rays were turning gentler. The shadows of buildings in the alleyway started to lengthen like a classical oil painting. Bufang was starting to fall asleep. Da-da-da. Just then, a series of footsteps sobered him up. A petite figure wearing a floral dress swiftly rushed into the store. She was leaning against the wall as she breathed heavily while bending over. Bufang expressionlessly looked at the person in front of him. Chapter 18, The Flat-Chested Lalai That Ran Away From Home. It was a dainty lalai. She was wearing a floral dress and her hair was rolled up into a bun. Her tender skin was as white as snow and her large eyes were sparkling. Her exquisite and adorable face, while her delicate full lips were glossy pink. The little lalai patted that flat chest of hers and caught her breath. When she carefully peeked out of the entrance and realized that no one had caught up with her, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. That was when she realized that Bufang was staring at her. She immediately glared at him and said, "What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beauty before?" "You're just a flat-chested lalai," Bufang simply retorted and stood up from his chair. Bufang was 1.8 meters tall and was looking down at the little lalai from high up above. The little lalai had to raise her head to look at Bufang. "Would you like something to eat?" Bufang asked. There was less than half an hour left until the opening hours was over. He originally thought that there would not be any customers and did not expect a little lalai would appear out of nowhere. "Who are you calling flat-chested?" The little lalai was pouting as she fumingly stared at Bufang and said, "It's just that I haven't gone through puberty yet." Bufang expressionlessly glanced at the little lalai's flat chest and the corner of his mouth widened. When the little lalai saw the expression on his face, she almost went into a rage. "If you're ordering, then hurry up. There's less than half an hour before the store closes," Bufang coldly said. The little lalai looked out the entrance once more and when she saw that her pursuers had ran past the alleyway, she breathed a sigh of relief. Then she sauntered toward a table, sat down on a chair and said, "What do you have here, tell me?" "It's all on the menu, turn around and see," Bufang replied. "Can't you just tell me?" The little lalai fumingly glared at Bufang once more, then turned her head to look at the menu. "This is a criminal's den. This is definitely a criminal's den." When the little lalai saw the prices on the menu, she immediately flew into a rage. She jumped up from the chair and pointed at Bufang while shouting, "Black-hearted owner, I will let my father arrest you." Bufang's face darkened and the corner of his mouth twitched. He was someone aiming to become the god of cooking. He had no time to waste on this little lalai. And so, Bufang patted the little lalai on her head, then picked her up and headed toward the entrance of the store. As he walked, he said to her, "Good girl, you should go home and play." The little lalai, who was being carried by Bufang, immediately struggled as her adorable little face contorted with fury. "You let go of me." She did not want to leave. Her father's guards were still looking for her and if she went outside, she would immediately be caught. "I will order something, I will order." The little lalai's eyes did a little turn and she said in a tender voice. Bufang was stunned for a moment, then he placed her down. The little lalai knitted her eyebrows and angrily snorted, then quickly went back to her seat and said, "Give me the most expensive dish." "No, your cultivation level does not meet the requirement," Bufang expressionlessly said. The little Lili was startled as she thought, what kind of a store is this? Why does my cultivation level need to be checked just to eat a meal? Then give me a serving of egg fried rice then, the little Lili twitched her mouth and helplessly said. Please wait a moment. Bufang glanced at the little Lili, then he went into the kitchen. The little Lili was bored to death as she waited. She glanced at her surroundings and realized that the ambience was not that bad. After a while, Bufang walked out of the kitchen with a blue and white porcelain bowl that contained the egg fried rice. Here's your egg fried rice, please enjoy your meal. It smells good. The little Lili's eyes immediately lit up. She was stunned as she watched the shimmering egg fried rice. The rich fragrance was making her stomach rumble loudly. The little Lili began to gobble down the food without any restraint. Nom nom. For some reason, Bufang suddenly felt that the way she ate was quite similar to the big black dog. A bowl of egg fried rice was completely consumed by the little Lili. Rubbing her bulging belly, the little Lili comfortably exhaled as she lay on the chair. She thought, it's really delicious. That would be one crystal, thank you. Bufang stared at the little Lili from high up above. The little Lili blinked her adorable eyes as she looked at Bufang. Suddenly, her eyes turned wet and her rosy little mouth pouted. She pitifully said to Bufang, Big brother, I ran away from home and I didn't bring any money with me. Since I am so cute, could you not charge me? Bufang expressionlessly thought, oh, so this Lili is a freeloader. No wonder she resembled Blackie. The big black dog lying at the entrance suddenly lifted its head and alertly scanned its surroundings. After finding nothing, it yawned and resumed lying down. You don't have any money? Bufang asked. That's right. The little Lili blinked her wet and large eyes and pitifully said, I don't have any money on me. Whitey, Bufang lightly called. The little Lili was startled, then felt a giant shadow had suddenly appeared behind her. Troublemaker, you will be stripped as an example to others. Whitey's electrical eyes were blinking as he mechanically said. Strip. It wants to strip me? The little Lili went into a daze, then her face turned white in fright. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched violently as well and he quickly stopped Whitey. System, what's the punishment for freeloaders? Bufang touched his nose and asked. No matter what, the brat was still a girl. Even though she had no breasts, it would not be a good idea to strip her. The little Lili was already frightened to death and both of her legs were trembling. She thought, this is definitely a criminal's den. There's actually a terrifying thing here that wants to strip someone as cute as me. There are two punishments. 1. The offender will be stripped as an example to others. 2. The offender will pay the debt with their body. The system solemnly replied. Pay the debt with their body? There's actually such a method? Bufang raised his eyebrows and glanced at the flat chest of the little Lili, then he sighed and shook his head. The so-called pay the debt with their body means they will work as a waiter in the store for a week. The system solemnly corrected the immoral thoughts in Bufang's mind. Without even skipping a heartbeat, Bufang lightly coughed. Since you don't have any money to pay the bill, then you'll need to work here for a week. Your main job will be serving dishes to the customers, Bufang said. The little Lili was stunned for a moment, then happily nodded her head and said, all right. This time, it was Bufang's turn to be surprised. He thought, why would you readily agree, shouldn't you refuse? You're not getting any pay. Bufang reminded her, only for the little Lili to roll her eyes in response. And so, the little Lili that ran away from home stayed at Fang Fang's little store and became a waitress. Once the opening hours was over, Bufang closed up the store and went upstairs. The little Lili, that ran away from home and had nowhere to stay, was placed in one of the other rooms. This was only because she begged and disturbed Bufang for quite a while before he finally agreed. My host, congratulations for completing a short-term mission, you shall soon receive the system reward. The system reward is being released. Bufang was excitedly sitting in his room, waiting full of expectation. The reward this time should be a new dish. You have taken a solid step forward in your road to become the god of cooking. The rewards: cooking methods for fish dry cooking and golden shumai, a fragment of the god of cooking set. Bufang was stunned. Fish dry cooking? Golden shumai? Does that count as unlocking new skills? And it was two at once. Bufang felt as if he was struck by happiness. Chapter 19, Lee's Fish in Fish Head Tofu Soup. What is fish dry cooking? Bufang wondered. As a chef, he was familiar with cooking fish and knew that it was an excellent ingredient. Different types of fish could be used to produce different gourmet food. Fish dry cooking is the three methods to cook fish: Lee's fish, boiled fish, and fish head tofu soup. The system will provide fresh ingredients for the host. Based on your current true energy level, fresh water and salt water fish of the third grade are available. As your true energy level increases, the grade of the fish provided will increase as well. The solemn voice of the system resounded in Bufang's mind. He was stunned for a moment as he did not think that fish dry cooking was referring to three methods of cooking fish. Bufang was not a stranger to these cooking methods either and had once eaten the authentic Lee's fish at Poyong Lake on Earth. However, the key to making Lee's fish was the alcohol. An extremely strong and mellow wine must be used. Only then would the aroma of the wine permeate into the fish during the marinating process. Normally, a quality plate of Lee's fish would be covered with pale pink distiller's grains with a rich alcoholic aroma, and the meat of fish would have an enticing jujube-like red color. The alcohol is the key to making the dish, but would the system be providing it? Bufang thought. For the Lee's fish cooking method, the best rice wine distiller's grains will be provided every day. However, the host has to manually marinate the fish, the system said. Bufang nodded. Since the system was going to provide the rice wine distiller's grains, there would not be any issue with cooking the Lee's fish. Bufang was very familiar with both the boiled fish and the fish head tofu soup. Boiled fish was a very popular dish on Earth that hawkers would be selling on the streets until nightfall. On the other hand, fish head tofu soup was an unusual home-cooked dish. However, cooking the dish was still not an issue for Bufang. The host has completed the short-term mission. The current earnings of 100 crystal converted to true energy is equivalent to 10 crystals. The true energy level has been increased to Battle Master. My host, congratulations for increasing your true energy level. You have taken another step to become the god of cooking. Work hard, young man. The system solemnly said. The system's announcement made Bufang rejoice as he quickly called out the character panel. Host, Bufang. True energy cultivation level, 2nd grade. As the god of cooking in the fantasy world, you will definitely need to make use of true energy when cooking. Work hard, young man. Cooking talents, yet to be unlocked. Skills, yet to be unlocked. Tools, yet to be unlocked. God of cooking overall rating, beginner. Your cultivation level is finally on the right track. Work hard, young man. System level, 2 stars, conversion ratio is at 20%, obtained permission to release furnitures, customers are allowed to bring ingredients lower than 3rd grade. Bufang heavily breathed out. He lifted up his hand and his body started to glow, as if an invisible energy was circulating in it. A 2nd grade battle master could not manifest true energy outside of their body, but it was perceptible when circulating within the body. As the circulation of true energy within his body continued, Bufang felt more and more energetic as his fatigue gradually disappeared. There was even black impurities being expelled from his body. If this scene was witnessed by others, they would definitely be shocked. Bufang was experiencing a metamorphosis, a process that would only appear when a person became a 4th grade battle spirit. When Bufang touched his chest and felt the bulging muscles, a stiff smile appeared on his face. As a chef, a strong physique was necessary. Even though the system only increased his true energy level and did not impart any combat skills to him, it was more than enough. It was because the system was designed to create a chef and not a fighter. With the help of the system, his goal was to become the god of cooking. The stench of the impurities expelled from his body made Bu Feng frown in displeasure, and he went to take a shower. After freshening up, Bu Feng changed into a new set of clothes and entered the kitchen. He could not wait to try out the new techniques that he learned. A wine vat had mysteriously appeared in the corner of the kitchen, causing Bu Feng to raise his eyebrows in surprise. He quickly realized that it was probably prepared by the system for cooking the Li's fish. In order to cook the Li's fish, there were higher requirements for the alcohol. As Bu Feng unsealed the cloth cover of the wine vat, a burst of thick wine aroma gushed out. Bu Feng wrinkled his nose as a slight redness appeared on his face. What a rich wine aroma! Bu Feng looked into the wine vat and saw the surface was evenly covered with a layer of tan distiller's grains dipped in a smooth and aromatic wine. Using a bamboo ladle to scoop up the distiller's grains, Bu Feng brought it to his nose and sniffed. He detected a faint sour smell with a hint of sweetness. When he rubbed a little of distiller's grains between his fingers, it felt soft and sticky. Without any doubt, it was an excellent vat of distiller's grains. Both the grains and the resulting wine were high quality. As expected of the system, the quality of the product is the finest. After Bu Feng resealed the wine vat, his gaze landed on the fish tank in another corner of the kitchen with two fishes lazily swimming around in it. Bu Feng had never seen these species of fish before. He was certain that they did not exist on Earth. One of the fishes had a faint blue glow surrounding its body, its eyes were moving about in a lively manner and had a perfectly shaped body. The other fish was far more menacing, it had a bulging head and a pitch-black body with reflective scales. Bu Feng expressionlessly stood in front of the fish tank with his sleeves rolled back and stared at the two fishes. Suddenly, both of his hands moved and swiftly entered the water. In the moment ripples appeared on the water's surface, he had already caught the glowing fish in his hands. The reaction of the fish was quick, as well as it suddenly emitted a shockwave from its body to escape from Bu Feng's hands. After all, it was not an ordinary fish but a third-grade spirit beast. Even though it was weak at fighting, it was still capable of struggling. Bu Feng seemed like an experienced fisherman as his fingers tightly grasped around the body of the fish and it gradually stopped struggling. The fish was eventually scooped out of the water and placed on the chopping board. The kitchen was renovated and prepared by the system, so all sorts of kitchenware were available. Bu Feng randomly grabbed a kitchen knife. The knife glimmered menacingly but did not affect his movements. The third-grade icy fish is a type of seawater fish caught in the northeastern waters of the Light Wind Empire. Its body radiates a blue glow, the meat contains cold energy and is also filled with spirit energy. It is an excellent ingredient. The rating that the system gave to the blue glow fish was not low, since the system would not provide any poor ingredients to Bu Feng in the first place. It was natural since having good ingredients was a necessity for cooking gourmet food. There would be a world of difference in the taste if poor ingredients were provided. Guiding true energy to his palms, Bu Feng used the flat side of the knife to smack the fish on its head. The fish, that was still struggling moments ago, suddenly became still. Bu Feng proficiently handled the descaling and gutting of the fish. In a while, an icy fish was successfully processed. He walked to the wine vat and opened it. After stuffing the belly of the fish with distiller's grains, he shoved the entire fish into the wine vat to marinate it. The special wine vat can speed up the marinating process. Estimated time to finish is 3 hours, the system announced. Bu Feng was startled, then nodded his head. If the marinating process could be hastened, then he would be able to sell it by the time his store opened for business. After placing the icy fish into the wine vat, Bu Feng began to prepare the second dish. The number of fishes in the tank became 2 once more. Without him even noticing, the system had already replenished the stock of fishes to ensure that Bu Feng would always have access to his ingredients. This time Bu Feng scooped out the black and stout fish. After processing it, he cut off its head and started to cook the fish head tofu soup. From the refrigerator, Bu Feng took out the pearly white tofu and began to cook. Third-grade thunder silver carp is a type of freshwater fish caught in the southern wasteland Great Lakes of the Light Wind Empire. It has a hefty head and plenty of flesh. The fish tastes refreshing with a slight prickling sensation. It is an excellent ingredient. Ice crystal jadeite tofu is made using the exquisite Spirit Energy soybeans from the northern parts of the Light Wind Empire. It is manually grinded and the manufacturing process is complicated. It is used as a royal tribute. As both the fish and tofu were extraordinary, Bu Feng could not help but be filled with expectations for the fish head tofu soup. As Bu Feng lifted up the lid, a rich fragrance with a faint scent of meat rushed out of the pot into his nasal cavities. He subconsciously deeply inhaled and triggered a series of rumbling noises from his stomach. At the same moment, the bored little Lily staying in the guest room suddenly sniffed a few times. Her large and adorable eyes did a little turn and were filled with delight. What a nice smell! Could it be that Deadpan owner is cooking something delicious? This smell. It's not egg fried rice. This little girl had a very good sense of smell. She quickly got off the bed and rushed out of the guest room. Back in the kitchen, Bu Feng had just scooped out of the fish head tofu soup from the pot. With just the milky white soup, a fat and tender fish head, and pearly white tofu, it was the most primitive combination of fish head and tofu. The aromatic and appetizing fish head tofu soup was then placed onto the table. Chapter 20, Drinking a Bowl of Fish Soup. A blue and white porcelain bowl contained the fish head tofu soup. Fresh and tender fish meat was floating in the pristine milky white fish soup, along with crystal clear tofu that looked brittle to the touch. The rich fragrance converged at the top of the bowl and exuded a captivating radiance under the dim lighting. Bu Feng satisfactorily took a deep breath as the faint fragrance of the fish rushed through his nasal cavities and spread into his limbs. The fish head tofu soup was actually a slightly difficult home-cooked dish as it tested a chef's control over heat. However, with Bu Feng's culinary skills, that was naturally quite accomplished. That was the only way to produce the pristine, milky white fish soup. After bringing the blue and white porcelain bowl out of the kitchen and placing it on a table in the store, Bu Feng took out a smaller bowl and was ready to personally taste the delicious fish head tofu soup. "My dear boss, what did you cook? It smells so good." Just when Bu Feng was about to start eating, a small head popped out from behind the door. Her charming, large eyes were staring at the bowl of fish head tofu soup in front of him. Bu Feng was startled for a moment, then he expressionlessly glanced at the little Lily. He almost forgot about her, but he was not surprised that she would be attracted by the smell of the soup. "I am trying out a new dish," Bu Feng simply said. Just as he finished the sentence, the little Lily was already standing in front of him. She was licking her lips while her eyes were staring at the bowl without blinking. "A new dish? It looks delicious. Is this fish soup? Why is the soup milky white? Eh? This tofu is beautiful. It looks just like a piece of artwork. How did it retain such an appearance after cooking? Wow. This fish head has a lot of meat. It looks delicious." Bu Feng put down his bowl and chopsticks, and looked at the babbling little Lily. He awkwardly sighed and said, "Go and get a bowl and chopsticks, we'll eat it together." The little Lily's eyes immediately lit up, and a gleeful smile appeared on her chubby face. "Boss, you're the best." And so, the little Lily ran into the kitchen, then quickly returned with a porcelain bowl in hand and was impatiently staring at Bu Feng. The corner of Bu Feng's mouth widened into an awkward smile. He took over the bowl in her hand and filled half of it with fish soup. Then he added a piece of fat, tender fish meat and 2 pieces of crystal clear tofu into the bowl. The little Lily happily received the bowl. She brought it close to her nose and inhaled. She could not help but delightfully yell out from the warm fragrance. The little Lily seemed to be quite knowledgeable about eating. She did not immediately eat the fish meat, but lifted the bowl and drank the soup instead. The milky white soup passed through her tender lips and into her mouth. The slight viscosity caused the soup to feel as smooth as silk. The rich taste was released in her mouth and completely enveloped her taste buds while the refreshing taste completely relaxed her entire body. Delicious. It smells so good. The little Lily satisfactorily sipped from the bowl, Her large eyes were squinting like two crescent moons. She had a satisfied expression on her face, as if she could drink from this bowl for the rest of her life. "Don't just drink the soup, you should try the fish meat as well. You might be surprised," Bu Fang simply said. He gently looked on as the little Lilai drank the soup. Bu Fang picked up his own bowl of soup and started to drink as well. The taste was indeed savory and the freshness of the ingredients was fully exhibited. "Ah! This fish! Why is there a prickling sensation?" After eating a piece of fish, the little Lilai was taken aback. Even though eating the fish meat gave her a prickling sensation, it did not lower her rating of the dish but increased it. The prickling sensation came from the ingredient itself, and when combined with the refreshing taste, its richness was increased and made the taste more apparent. The tofu was extremely soft as well and melted in her mouth. The faint taste of the tofu mixed with the residual taste of the fish gave her a peculiar pleasure. "This is the most delicious soup I've ever tasted," the little Lilai earnestly said toward Bu Fang after she finished the last drop of soup. It was not only delicious, but also improved her true energy circulation and a warm feeling was spreading throughout her body. "I see. Sleep early if you've finished eating. There's still work tomorrow," Bu Fang expressionlessly nodded and reminded her. The little Lilai's facial expression froze, then she haughtily snorted. She put down the bowl in her hands and was about to return to her room. However, she hesitated for a moment when she reached the door, then turned toward Bu Fang and said, "Smelly boss, my name is Ouyang Zioyi. You can call me Zioyi." Bu Fang was startled and said, "I see." The little Lilai was annoyed. She thought, "I've already told him my name, shouldn't this smelly boss tell me his name?" "Smelly boss, what's your name?" Zioyi haughtily asked. "Bu Fang," Bu Fang simply replied as he tidied up the tableware. Zioyi snorted and finally satisfactorily went back to sleep. After placing the tableware in the automatic dishwasher, Bu Fang stretched his body and intended to have an early rest. Even though his body was stronger, it was still important to have a good rest. Since Bu Fang had already eaten the fish head tofu soup and his mouth still retained the delicious taste of the dish, he had no intention of cooking his other reward, the golden shumai, for the moment. The night passed without any incident. When the morning sunlight touched the entrance of the store, Bu Fang had already completed his daily training and opened the store. Ouyang Zioyi was rubbing her eyes as she came down the stairs. She spotted Bu Fang feeding the big black dog at the entrance and curiously went up to him. When she saw that the big black dog was eating the egg fried rice that she ate yesterday, she was completely bewildered. Bu Fang glanced at her and expressionlessly said, "I forgot to tell you something yesterday. Since you're repaying your debt by working here, your meals won't be provided. If you're eating here, then you'll still need to pay." When the little Lilai heard him, she forced herself to look away from the big black dog and immediately used a pitiful gaze to look at him. However, Bu Fang was completely unaffected. "Fine." The little Lilai gave up and viciously laid a curse on Bu Fang so he would not be able to find a wife. Bu Fang was leisurely curled up on the chair and basking in the warm sunlight, while Ouyang Zioyi was bitterly sitting nearby. The scene was still quite harmonious. Finally, Fatty Jin and his buddies arrived and familiarly greeted Bu Fang. "Good morning, Owner Bu. The weather is good today." A smile appeared on Fatty Jin's face. Bu Fang nodded and lightly replied with a. Then he got up and entered the kitchen. "If you're ordering anything, tell it to that girl. Oh, and there's a new dish today. Do you want to give it a try?" "Oh my! What a cute little girl. Owner Bu, you have such a unique preference." Fatty Jin teasingly laughed at him and looked toward Ouyang Zioyi. However, the smile on his face soon disappeared and his cheeks slightly trembled. "Oh my god! Why is she here? Damn it!" Fatty Jin blinked furiously and looked at the little Lilai. "That's right. It really is her. Owner Bu is truly formidable. How did he get her to be his waitress? Did those three barbaric brothers of her agree to this?" Ouyang Zioyi recognized him as well. She immediately snorted and impatiently said, "Fatty Jin, what are you ordering? Hurry up." "I'll have the improved egg fried rice and the new dish today," Fatty Jin hurriedly said. The other obese men also ordered their dishes as well. However, they did not order as much as yesterday. After all, the dishes were not cheap. "Alright, wait for it." Ouyang Xiaoyi seriously memorized their orders and headed toward the kitchen. Once she reached the entrance, she reported their orders to Bufang. Only Fatty Jin ordered the fish head tofu soup. Bufang was slightly surprised, but it was within his expectations. After all, the price of the fish head tofu soup was not cheap, 20 crystals per serving. It was exorbitant. Only someone with money like Fatty Jin would dare to freely order this dish. Even though the others were rich as well, their wealth could not be compared with his. Fish head tofu soup, how interesting. For it to be sold for 20 crystals, I am looking forward to it. Fatty Jin was filled with expectations as he sat on the chair.